Friends, welcome to this new video. In today's case, we're dealing with one of the most famous and terrifying legends of our country, and even of many countries in Latin America and around the world. We will also learn about the experience of two police officers who apparently came across this animal during an early morning patrol. The Lobizón is present in every corner of our culture, remaining relevant thanks to stories that are passed down from generation to generation. But it should also be noted that even today, we regularly find people who encounter this famous creature. To begin with, we need to know that the origin of this legend is not really known, since ancient writings have been found that talk about it, which is extremely unsettling. Before getting into details about how this legend is told in each country, let's focus our attention on Argentina and Latin America to learn a little more about it. In the north of our country, and according to the Guarani legend, a long time ago, Tau and Cuerna fell in love and without knowing it, carried a powerful curse upon them. They had 6 children, and it was the 7th, named Lobison, who ultimately inherited everything his parents had. The legend says that Lobison, upon reaching adolescence, began to feel changes, discomfort, and pains that only he experienced. Until one Friday night with a full moon, he had his first transformation, turning into a creature that was half wolf and half man. From that moment on, it is known that the 7th son will carry this curse. In Guarani culture, and even today, they say it's easy to recognize these creatures. His transformation happens on Tuesdays or Fridays during a full moon, so it's common for Wednesdays or Saturdays. In the morning, they are seen looking very bad and with an unbearable smell. Because they spend the whole night in garbage dumps and eating dead animals, they are also visibly decomposed precisely because of everything they ate during the night. They say their skin turns somewhat yellowish and they are quite apathetic toward anyone who crosses their path. The belief is so deeply rooted in our culture that it led to a rather unusual and desperate measure, although it was in search of a solution to a clear problem. Many families would sacrifice their 7th child, since if it was a boy he would become the Lobison, and if it was a girl she could become a witch. In Argentina and Paraguay since the mid-19th century, although officially it is recorded as starting in 1907, the president himself, through a decree, protects the 7th child. He becomes their godfather, trying in this way to save them from all evil. Even President Juan Domingo Perón gave all of this a legal framework, and with Decree 848, known as the Presidential Godparenting Law, it provides the 7th child of any family with full scholarships for primary and secondary school education. Another way to protect the boy and free him from this curse is to baptize him for 7 days in 7 different churches. Although some say he is harmless, many others think otherwise, since the rumors are that on many occasions the Lobison attacked more than one passerby or ate a baby who had not been baptized. For this reason, locals claim that the only way to face and kill him is with a silver bullet. Without going any further, just a few weeks ago, in a neighborhood of Corrientes capital, a neighbor came across an animal of enormous proportions and claimed it was the Lobison. He even recorded a short video that, unfortunately, is of such poor quality that it's impossible to see anything clearly. This, of course, raises a lot of doubts about it. But, beyond all that, the most curious thing is that this legend is still alive today, along with several witnesses who show that fiction is often also part of reality. Next, we are going to learn about the story I mentioned about 2 officers from Uruguay who share this experience that has marked them to this day. I would like to know what all of you think about this case. My name is Martin, and I want to tell you about some of the experiences I had at my job. I'm from Uruguay. I've been a police officer for more than 14 years, and these experiences happened to me during my work shifts. Some occurred when I was alone, others when I was with someone. Not everyone is willing to believe in these phenomena. And I think that's exactly because until it happens to you, you don't really become aware of what's real and what isn't. I think that just as there is light, there is darkness, and just as there is good energy, there is also its opposite. And it's always lurking, waiting for us to let our guard down so it can show itself. I'm from Uruguay, as I mentioned to you, and what I'm about to tell you happened to me in the small city of Tala, which is in the department of Canelones. For those who don't know, it's about 80 kilometers from Montevideo. I have to clarify that this city is extremely peaceful, both during the day and at night or in the early morning. One night while making the rounds with my partner. In that case, we weren't in the city but in a rural area called El Paso Rivero, and this is where we experienced something unique. Around 3:30 in the morning, right in the middle of our rounds. To give you some context, I'll tell you that it's a completely dark rural area with houses every 300 or 400 meters or so. In other words, it's a desolate place where peace and quiet usually prevail. At one point, when we were approaching a sort of S-shaped curve in the road, we first turned right and before turning left again. I told my companion, who was driving, to be careful because I thought I saw a cow in the middle of the road. Even though we weren't going fast, I warned him so he would be alert. When we turned left again, the car's headlights fully illuminated this animal, if it really was one. Because to this day, neither of us has been able to know for sure what it was. Automatically, when we got onto the straightaway, my partner hit the brakes and we stared at this black mass that was only about 3 or 4 meters away from us. It was a dog at least, it had that shape or something similar, but it was as tall as an adult cow or even taller. Its size was completely out of proportion, and its shape confused us because we realized it wasn't a cow nor a horse or anything like that. Like I said, its shape was that of a dog but gigantic. And it stared at us since the reflection of the lights hit its eyes and you could see 2 reddish glints that didn't move.
Alright, what we saw. Or maybe I do know how to explain it to you, but even it's hard for me to believe it, because it was almost. But it was a dog of that size. It wasn't standing on 2 legs like many people think or say. Also, it wasn't a dog standing on 4 legs, but it was the size of a cow, a dog. I remember it was really hairy, and since we were in a dark area, we had the high beams on, their strong lights, and with that, we ended up lighting it up. I remember that we stopped and I couldn't move. But the only thing I managed to say to my partner was, barely moving my mouth, "What is that?" I told him, and he said to me, "I don't know, stay still." I mean, we stayed inside the patrol car still, and that thing, about 2 or 3 meters in front of the police car, was staring at us intently. It's something that to this day I don't understand, because we had the high beams on, the strong lights. It's impossible to look inside the cabin because the light doesn't let you see into the cabin because it blinds you. But that giant dog was looking us in the eyes. It was looking me in the eyes and looking at my partner. I mean, we couldn't move. Whenever I heard a story, I would say, well, why didn't they film it? Well, in 2009, there weren't really cell phones. Not all cell phones could record, but I had a cell phone that could record. But I couldn't do anything. I couldn't move. Because I think my brain was trying to figure out what it was seeing. Because it couldn't be. I mean, what I was seeing, it just couldn't be. So I couldn't manage to film. I couldn't manage to take pictures. Neither of us could move because I think our brains were trying to figure out what we were seeing and we just didn't understand it.
This scene lasted for about 15 seconds, I think, until this animal started to move very slowly, always without taking its eyes off us. It went around the vehicle to the back and stood there for a few seconds. My partner put the car in reverse to get a better look at it. And when the white reverse light came on, this dog ran off into the woods, at a speed and with movements we had never seen before. It was something I can assure you I never imagined experiencing, and honestly I would have a hard time believing it if
it hadn't happened to us. And I remember that we stayed there, maybe 10 more minutes, not talking to each other, not moving, nothing. I mean, we were like, we didn't understand what we had seen, what had happened. And I remember that after that, the car started and we didn't say a word the whole way until we got back to the police station. We didn't say anything to each other. And we never told anyone about this. Because on my part, I thought no one would ever believe me. and I think he thought the same. And when we saw each other from time to time, because I'm working somewhere else now and so is he, when we see each other, we talk about it and we still don't know what it was that we saw. I mean, it's been more than 10 years and we still don't know what it was that we saw that night.
On another occasion, something very curious happened to me. I was left alone at the police station while my two colleagues had gone out on patrol, and I was really sleepy, I remember. I wanted to make coffee, but they hadn't returned yet. It was around 2 a.m. when I heard them coming after a short while. Or at least that's what I thought. I never imagined what was about to happen.
I remember that to get there, let's say from the back to the place where I was, there's a pretty long hallway to get to the reception office, let's say. There's a pretty long hallway. I was watching television, then I heard them coming from the back, because at the police station you could leave the car in the front. You parked in front of the station where there were some big windows that are still there. When we knew we weren't going out for a long time, we bring it in through the back and enter from the rear. So I remember hearing them coming, walking down the hallway, and I say to them, without turning around, without looking at the corridor, I say, well, you guys finally came. I'm dying of sleep. I wanted to go have a coffee, and when I finished saying that, the sound of the footsteps stopped. I mean, the noise of the footsteps stopped. And I say, what are you doing? Then I turn, go and look down the hallway, down the corridor, and there was no one. There was absolutely no one. There was absolutely no one. I look ahead through the large windows and notice the patrol car arriving with my coworkers. And that's when I decided not to tell anyone about this either. I really didn't tell this to anyone, not even to the colleague who saw the animal with me. I didn't tell him either because I didn't understand what happened. The thing is, at that police station there was an order. At that time, I don't know if it's still in place now or not. We always had to keep the cells with the doors closed. They were very thick metal doors and they always had to be closed. The one who stayed alone at night, always. While they patrolled, I would hear noises inside the empty cells. We would hear noises like someone tapping a door once with a finger, not banging on it. That noise was always heard at night in the cells, and we had to keep the cells locked. I recall hearing that noise one night. It was really hard for me to go to the cell, and what I did was open both doors. I left both cells open, and every time I came in for the night shift after that, the first thing I did was leave them open. Even though I sometimes got scolded by a superior, I still left them open. And when you left the cell doors open, you never heard a sound at night, you didn't hear anything in the station, everything was calm. But if by chance one of the colleagues closed the door at night, you would always hear that noise or hear footsteps, you would hear something. I don't know what happened in that station, if something happened inside the cells or not, but well, I managed during the short time I was there in that station. If you left the cell door open at night, you wouldn't hear any noises, footsteps, or anything strange.
Thank you for making it to the end of this video. If you can share the story, you really help me reach new people every day. Friends, I'll see you in the next episode, and as always, I send a big hug to all of you.
Thank you.